The political and legal landscape took a dramatic turn this week as newly surfaced evidence in the Jeffrey Epstein case sent shockwaves through both the United Kingdom and the United States. What began as a set of long-forgotten files and sealed testimonies has now evolved into a sprawling controversy that appears to have reopened some of the most sensitive and explosive questions surrounding Epstein's international connections. Among the most startling ripple effects has been the reaction from former President Donald Trump, who, according to several sources close to his camp, has reportedly shifted his schedule and gone on a defensive media sprint as the story spreads through British and American headlines. The revelation came after a major UK newspaper obtained what it described as a cache of documents tied to Epstein's dealings with several British elites. The material includes communications, travel records, and banking links that suggest Epstein's influence in the UK extended further than previously understood. Legal experts in London are now poring over the evidence to determine whether the newly discovered files could lead to reopened investigations. The documents have reportedly reignited scrutiny on figures who once moved in Epstein's social circle and who may have played roles in facilitating his activities across the Atlantic. Almost immediately after the news broke, social media erupted with speculation about how this could affect individuals who had once been friendly with Epstein or his network. Trump's name, though not directly tied to the UK-based evidence, quickly began trending online as users revisited his past associations with Epstein and the public remarks he made before after Epstein's arrest. While Trump has repeatedly denied any involvement in Epstein's crimes, the renewed attention appears to have prompted him to take proactive steps to manage the narrative. Sources close to his campaign team have confirmed that the former president has privately expressed anger at the timing of these revelations, seeing them as a politically motivated attempt to damage his image ahead of the coming election cycle. Observers note that Trump's tone in recent appearances has reflected an increasingly defensive posture. During a private fundraiser earlier this week, he reportedly told donors that the fake media was once again attempting to resurrect dead stories to smear him. His campaign aides have been quick to highlight that Trump was one of the first public figures to distance himself from Epstein when the financier's crimes first became widely known. However, critics have been equally quick to counter that distancing oneself after the fact does not erase years of photographs and social interactions that have been well documented. In Britain, the scandal has revived painful memories of how deeply the Epstein saga once shook the royal establishment. Though Buckingham Palace has refused to comment on the latest developments, analysts say there is growing concern within certain circles that new disclosures could pull old controversies back into the public eye. The UK Metropolitan Police have stated that they are reviewing the information but have not confirmed whether any formal investigation will be launched. The British public's reaction has been one of shock and fatigue, as many believed the Epstein issue had been settled following his death in 2019. The cross-Atlantic implications of this renewed scrutiny have not gone unnoticed in Washington. Several Democratic lawmakers have used the moment to call for greater transparency about Epstein's connections to American politicians and businessmen. They argue that even years after his death, the full scope of Epstein's influence remains obscured by powerful interests. Meanwhile, Trump's allies are framing the developments as part of a broader effort to weaponize scandals against the former president as his campaign gains traction. According to multiple insiders, the Trump team believes the timing of the revelations is no coincidence. Political strategists point out that Trump's instinct to go on the offensive rather than remain silent is consistent with his established media strategy. Whenever controversy arises, he seeks to dominate the conversation rather than hide from it. This time, however, the stakes may be higher than usual. The Epstein story has long been one of those rare controversies that transcend partisan lines, tainting figures from both the left and right. For Trump, who was already juggling multiple legal battles and political attacks, being drawn back into that narrative is a strategic nightmare. In recent interviews, Trump has repeatedly emphasized that he barely knew Epstein, despite video footage and archived interviews showing them interacting socially in the early 2000s. The former president insists that any implication of wrongdoing is baseless. Yet the renewed UK investigation threatens to pull even distant acquaintances back into the media glare. Analysts note that what makes the new evidence particularly damaging is its potential to reveal patterns of influence that span multiple governments and financial institutions. If the UK probe finds links between Epstein's British operations and American political figures, the repercussions could be severe. Former federal prosecutors interviewed by major networks have said that while Epstein's death closed his own criminal proceedings, it did not end investigations into his associates or enablers. They note that civil lawsuits and financial tracing can still expose networks of complicity. In that sense, the UK revelations could create a domino effect, leading to new disclosures in US courts. The possibility that sealed documents in American jurisdiction could be reopened has left several high-profile figures on edge. For Trump's political opponents, the moment has provided a fresh opportunity to question his judgment and associations. Democratic strategist Maria Glucker said in an interview that Trump's repeated appearances alongside Epstein in past footage represented a lapse in moral and social discernment unbecoming of our national leader. Republican strategists, however, argue that the renewed media focus is a distraction meant to draw attention away from what they describe as Biden administration missteps. The polarized responses underscore how every development in the Epstein saga quickly becomes entangled in the broader partisan conflict shaping American politics. Media watchdogs have also criticized how quickly unverified claims circulate online whenever Epstein's name resurfaces. Several conspiracy theorists have already seized on the UK evidence, spinning wild narratives involving global elites and secret networks. Social platforms have attempted to moderate the discussion, but the combination of secrecy, wealth, and power makes the story nearly impossible to contain. The resurgence of Epstein-related content has once again proven to be a magnet for public fascination and outrage. Inside Trump's campaign headquarters, aides have reportedly begun vetting past photos, interviews, and public statements to ensure there are no new vulnerabilities that could be exploited by opponents. The campaign is said to be bracing for a wave of negative headlines that could coincide with ongoing court cases involving the former president. Some advisors have urged Trump to pivot aggressively toward domestic issues such as the economy and border security to drown out the noise. Others fear that the more he talks about Epstein, the more the media will focus on the scandal. Financial donors close to Trump's campaign have expressed concern that the renewed Epstein coverage could deter moderate voters. Polling data in swing states shows that while most of Trump's base remains loyal, independent voters tend to react negatively to stories that evoke moral or ethical lapses. One Republican pollster described the situation as a dangerous distraction at a dangerous time, noting that the campaign had just begun regaining momentum after a difficult legal stretch. The UK press, meanwhile, continues to dig deeper into the story. Reports suggest that several British journalists are in contact with US law enforcement sources to cross-reference data contained in the new files. The coordinated investigation hints that what began as a local British revelation could evolve into a multinational scandal with unpredictable consequences. Former intelligence officials have speculated that Epstein's web of connections may have included individuals involved in sensitive government or financial sectors, making full transparency both politically and diplomatically fraught. For Trump, the immediate task is damage control. His advisors have reportedly advised him to limit unscripted comments about Epstein while focusing public appearances on populist themes that resonate with his core supporters. However, the former president's tendency to speak off the cuff has already led to a few fiery remarks. During a recent campaign stop, he dismissed the renewed stories as a hoax from people who want to distract from Biden's failures, but his sharp tone only invited more coverage. Within hours, clips of his comments were circulating across major media outlets, ensuring the issue remained in the headlines. Political analysts warn that even if Trump is not directly implicated, the optics alone could prove damaging. In the current media environment, perception often matters more than evidence. A single image, quote, or rumor can dominate the narrative, especially when tied to figures as infamous as Epstein. For the British establishment, the problem is equally perilous. If the evidence truly reveals deeper institutional involvement, the fallout could challenge public trust in law enforcement and governance itself. As the story develops, the intersection between politics, media, and justice grows increasingly complex. Each side accuses the other of manipulation while the public struggles to distinguish fact from speculation. Legal experts emphasize patience, reminding that evidence must be verified and due process observed. Yet in the world of politics, perception barely waits for confirmation. Trump's reaction swift, defensive, and combative suggests he recognizes the stakes. He knows that the Epstein scandal is toxic terrain, capable of undermining even well-established figures. In private conversations reported by aides, Trump has expressed frustration that no matter how many times he tries to move past old controversies, the media always finds a way to revive them. His supporters echo this sentiment, framing the renewed Epstein focus as part of a broader media bias. Still, critics maintain that transparency about powerful figures' past associations is a legitimate public interest. The coming weeks may prove decisive. British investigators are expected to announce whether the evidence warrants formal reopening of certain cases. American reporters, meanwhile, continue to probe potential cross-border connections. In political circles, the question is not just whether Trump is implicated, but whether his name being dragged back into the Epstein narrative could alter voter sentiment at a critical moment. For now, the former president's strategy appears to be containment and counterattack. His campaign has amplified messages about political persecution, economic revival, and immigration reform issues designed to remind his base why they support him. Yet the shadow of Epstein lingers, an uncomfortable reminder that old scandals have a way of resurfacing when least expected. As investigators in London dig deeper, and as American media continues to connect dots across continents, one thing is certain: the fallout from the Epstein saga is far from over, and its latest trauma has once again shaken some of the world's most powerful figures, including Donald Trump himself.